Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome to my turn to talk. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. I am Solid Blue Sister, and today we are going to talk about parents. Are they allowed to dislike their children? That is the question for today. Are parents allowed to dislike their children? Now, let's talk about this for a moment. All right. So, um, we have people who have children and they have them because they want them. They want children, something that they've planned on. For some people, they've dreamed about it. They want children, but somewhere along the way, they start to look at their children sideways. Um, it could be because of behavior. It could be because of the parents get stressed out. There are many reasons why people don't like their children. Could be because they were not ready for children. Um, their children were a surprise. They weren't ready to have a family. So, is it okay? And I don't like to really use the word okay. Are they allowed to dislike their children? All right. So children are born, everyone's born with a blank slate. Even though I personally believe that, like that movie The Bad Seed, that some children are born bad. But for the most part, children come out and they're babies, they're children. So somewhere along the way, and it may appear when they're a toddler, it may appear when they're in grammar school, um, when they become teenagers, they get that teenage angst, whatever. Think back to when you were growing up. Were you a problem child for your parents? Um, you know what what were you? You know what were you? Were you that parent that started to dislike their child? Now, let me ask this. You have parents who adopt children and they want to return them. They want to take them back. The child is not fitting in. They're not fitting into their family dynamic that exists. Um, the child could be withdrawn. The child could have behavior issues. Um, there could be many reasons why a child is not assimilating into a household if they are adopted. Does the same thing go for children who are born biologically into that family? Um, is it? Is there a difference? And do you get a pass? Do you get a pass if you want to return a child that was adopted as to disliking your biological child. And some people put their biological children up for adoption. Some people tell their biological children, when they turn 18, they have to go. Some people put their children out before they're 18 because I can't deal with you anymore. We can't deal with you anymore. On the flip side, hey Tiffany, on the flip side, uh, you know, is is it okay for children to dislike their parents? Are they allowed to dislike their parents? And let's be honest, people do um uh dislike their parents. People, and for the most part, society says it's okay if you dislike your parents. You're going through, you're this is what you go through. This is what you go through when you're growing up. Your parents piss you off. You don't like them. You know, I hate you. But if a parent were to say that about their child, they're going to be, taken, uh, you know, someone's going to call CPS. Someone's going to call CPS and, oh my God, I can't believe that, you said this about your child. What's the difference? Hey, Anthony, what's the difference? What's the difference between not liking your child and not liking your parent? You have children who dislike their parents because their parents are abusive, either emotionally or physically. Then again, you also have children who abuse their parents. I'm not talking, when they get to be teenagers, I'm talking you do have um, uh, children who abuse their parents when they're younger. And it gets worse as they get older. And that parent really starts to dislike their child. I'm sending you off to your grandparents' house. You're gonna go live with your uncle. You're gonna go live with your aunt and uncle. You're gonna live somewhere other than here. So when that child becomes an adult and they look back at their childhood, they look at the parents that gave them away, that gave up on them. But is it okay for parents to give up on their children because they're just exhausted? Because for whatever reason, they just can't um, deal with them anymore. You know, what do you do? I've heard of parents who call CPS on themselves. When you want to, you have parents who put their children in the foster care system because they can't deal with them anymore. And other family members look at them like, oh my God, you actually did that? You actually put your child up for adoption? You actually put them in the foster care system? You actually put them out of your house? You told them to go live someplace else? But I understand that some parents can be selfish. Um, but I also think that, like Caleb said, some children are hard. Some children can be hard. And Tristina says, I think you're allowed not to like your kids. Wait, I think you're allowed not to like your kids. A lot of parents. That's part of autonomy. We are all our own person. I believe this is a situational situation. Safety for the child first, always though. So my question is, what about the safety for the parent? Now, I know this was a movie, but I'm going to go back to the movie from the 1950s, the Bad Seed. Okay. And you had this little girl who, like I said before, I believe that it is possible for children to be born bad, but for the most part, but I think that's maybe 1% of the population. That's or less than 1%. That's just me. That's just how I think. But again, like I said, when children are born, for the most part, or I'm not even gonna say for the most part, when babies are born, everyone's born with a clean slate of a blank slate. Um, but what if you have a child who puts you in danger? They're putting their siblings in danger. They're torturing the family dog, the family cat. They're pushing their little sister, their little brother down the stairs. And you go and you do therapy and you do all of this and you really start to resent that child. What if that child is one of those kids that you hear about in the news who one day they wake up and they, kill their whole family or they kill their brother, their sister, whatever. Is it okay to dislike that child? Is it okay to have a hatred for that child? So while we say safety for the child first, should you also say, well, what about safety for the parent? And again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Let's see. Hold on, let me get these. Inferno says safety for the parent is important too. My half sister's ex-husband put his own mother in the ICU 4 times when he was in high school. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying that your um, uh, sister's ex, that his mother started to hate him, but is she justified? Is she justified? And this is an adult hurting his mother, but what was this man doing when he was a child? What was his behavior like? You know, um, biggest part of being a parent for some will be knowing when it's not something you can handle and give the kids to somebody who can help if able to. Okay, so this is what I say. You have, Johnny or, Susie. You're going to go live with your grandparents. I'm sending you to your aunt and uncle for the summer. They're going to straighten you out. You're going to military school. You're not going to go to the high school down the street with the rest of your friends. You're going to military school. For some people, they get so frustrated with their kids that they send their kids to boot camp, which I'm not sure how much boot camp, will help your child, but I don't know. What do you do? What do you do when you, as a child, is seeing your sibling hurt and harm your parents, other siblings in the house, pets, the neighbor? What do you do? Now, again, I'm going to play devil's advocate because I do believe that there are parents, for whatever reason, dislike their children because they did not want to be parents. They still had the child, but they're raising this child with resentment. And that resentment over time starts to show. And then this other child comes along, maybe a couple of years later, and this is the child that they're prepared for. So the first child is either ignored, emotionally or physically abused because they were not wanted, literally, as compared to their sibling who was. Those dynamics exist. What do you do if you're a parent who resents your child because you weren't ready for them? They weren't intended. For some people, they call that child a mistake. What do you do? Now, I'm going to get a little political here. See, Tracina says safety for the parent is important. Also, my nephew was violent from a young age. He requires some therapeutic care in a hospital setting at a young age. Okay. So I'm going to get a little political here because this is the world that we live in. What about that 10-year-old, that 13-year-old, that 16-year-old who was molested, who was raped, sexually assaulted? That's the word I'm supposed to use on YouTube, and they have to. Hey, Lou. I'm also over here on YouTube. What do you do when you have that dynamic that plays into the whole situation of not wanting a child? So this child is forced to have a child. And again, I'm getting political now because of politics. Is that child allowed to dislike their child? Is that child allowed to have resentment? What do you do? You have an 11-year-old having children. I mean, in some states in America, it is legal for child marriage. And we know in other parts of the world, it is legal for a 10-year-old to get married to a 40-year-old man. What do you do when those children are raising children? What do you do when you have a child that is 16 years old and for no fault of her own because she was sexually assaulted and was forced to give birth to this child, and she wanted to go off to become a doctor, an architect, a dentist, a flight attendant, a teacher. But her dreams and her world gets sidelined because of this child. Is that person allowed to dislike their child? I mean, are they? Lou, I am doing well. I am doing well. Okay, Lou says over here on Podbean, well, rapists have never been prosecuted at the highest extent. No, they haven't. And I don't care what demographic you're in. Usually people who sexually assault other people, they usually end up walking away. And the person who was sexually assaulted is labeled. They shouldn't have been there. They shouldn't have worn that. Look at how they dress. I mean, so are you allowed to dislike your child? Tiffany says yes. You know, I know this may be again, you all know me. I bring up shows that trigger people, you know. But I think it's things that we need to talk about because each and every day the world gets more and more complicated. Um, we live in a society where we reward bad behavior as opposed to good behavior. We make excuses for people. Oh, well, he was just being a boy. Boys will be boys. Oh, girls, they're mean to each other. But are these same people going to end up having children that they end up resenting, or their children end up resenting them because their parents are just not nice? Trisina says, oh, hold on, let me do Infernal first. Would be hard to be okay with seeing somebody who not only you gave birth to, but also looks like whoever assaulted you and not have a negative feeling, even if it's PTSD. Very true. And Trisina says, often sometimes sexual assault, generational trauma is passed down within families like an inheritance. That is so true. That is so true. So again, what do you do when you're in a situation where your child does not like you, or you literally cannot stand your child? And I'm trying to keep away from the H word, which is some people actually hate their children. I remember watching Jerry Springer years ago. And you all are familiar with Jerry Springer. They're screaming at each other, they're throwing chairs and all this other stuff. And a mother was on there, and she was saying that she can't control her son. Her son was 16 years old. He was like 6'2", 6'3", um, you know, muscle. And she was afraid of her son. That he was like, F you, mom, and F this, F this, F this. And Jerry Springer said, well, he wasn't always 16. So are you disliking your child because you can't control him? But is this something that you should have dealt with when they were younger? Is that something that that you should have done? Now, Lou says over on Popping, but all children are a gift, and that's not the child's fault. Uh, Say, I have sons with my mother who have been assaulted. I always raise my boys never uh, attack women in any form. Hey, Mr. A, welcome. And again, and Tristina says over here on YouTube, Okay. I read this already, but I'm gonna read it again. Oftentimes, sexual assault, generational trauma is passed down within families like an inheritance. All children are a gift, but at what point do they stop being a gift because that child is hurting other people in the family? What do you do? Sometimes therapy is not something that helps that child. You know, let's see, was it Inferno who said, let me go back. And uh Okay, so yes, it was Inferno. I'll put this back up. Safety for the parent is important too. My half sister's ex husband put his own mother in the ICU 4 times when he was in high school. So has that child stopped becoming a gift? I mean, when is a child, not a gift to you anymore? If you have to be afraid of your child, if the family pet is running away and hiding every time your son or daughter comes into the room and they're shaking, they're terrified because they're being tortured, that's a problem. Now, I'm going to say something that some people may not like the way I'm going to phrase it, but I'm purposely phrasing it this way. Do you sacrifice one child for the good of the others? And what I mean by sacrifice, do you put a child up for adoption? Do you send a child away to live with a relative? Do you put a child in foster care? Because that child is literally destroying the rest of your family and your other children. Do you sacrifice that child? And again, I'm purposely using that phrase for the good of everyone else. Is that wrong? And again, I say, um, um, society is okay with a child saying, I hate my mother. I can't stand my father. I want to live someplace else. I'm running away. Society is willing to accept that. And oftentimes they will. If you were to take a child to court and someone says, well, I heard him say that he hated his father and he was going to run away. More than likely, depending upon the age of the child, they'll say, oh, well, he's just a kid, whatever. He didn't hurt anybody. He just said he hated his mother or father. He wanted to run away. He hated his little brother, his little sister. Not knowing that that child is literally terrorizing the household. Now, if a mother or father, was in court and they were told, did you say you hated your child? Yes. Oh my God. We're taking that child away from you and we're going to do this. And how could you be such a horrible person? Again, not knowing the context that that child has been terrorizing you and everyone else in the household. So if a child can put his mother in the ICU 4 times in high school, we're not talking they had to go to the doctor. Intensive care. Why was that a child? Why was that child allowed back into the home? Was it because his parents didn't press charges? Their parents said, he's our son. We can't do this. You don't know everything that that was going on, but let's see, I'm very you you tilta. Well, okay, okay, yeah, Tiffany, I am. But what do you do? What do you do? And to all the Podbean people who may listen to this on the replay, yes, I've been away from Podbean for a very long time. I'm just doing these last couple of shows before they take away all the lives off of Podbean. Um, you know, um, you know, I you know, I have gotten to the point where, actually, I've been like this for 10 years plus. I don't like other people's children in my house. And I very, very rarely allow other people's children in my house. Why? Because I have found, and I've said this before, some of you all know this, I am a boomer. I am old school. You come into someone's house, you say hello to them, please, thank you. But nowadays, it seems like kids are just, and this has happened to me, where um, kids have come into my house, they just start jumping up and down on my sofa. And you're looking at them like, what the hell? And the parents do nothing. They do nothing. And there are some children that I don't like. And people have said to me, "Oh, come on, they're just kids." No, I don't like that kid. And if you're being honest as a parent, when your child was in school, and if they are still in school, there are some kids, some schoolmates that your child goes to school with that you don't like. You don't want them to hang around. You don't care for that child. You don't want that child to come into to your home. Let's be honest. But again, are parents allowed to dislike their children? I say yes. I say yes. Um, let's see. Tracina says, I have a house shoe for that. Sorry, I'm known around here for that. I love you, but be respectful. Yes. And and some people, some parents, I'm sorry, I'm a little nasally today, don't teach respect to their children. Oh, excuse me. They do not teach respect to their children. But yet, when their children go into another person's space, or they go to school and they get reprimanded or corrected by someone other than you, they get upset. So I'm going to take this to another level. Is it okay for other people not to like your child? Is it okay for you not to like someone else's children? I say yes. And Infernal says, I say yes, as long as they don't abuse their kids because of it. Yes, we need parental support groups that help parents learn that not all feelings of parenthood is going to be bubbly love and joy. And that's true. Parents get
get stressed out. There are times when, you're pulling your mom 50 different ways. They're trying to cook, they're trying to, tie somebody's shoe, they're trying to do this, they're trying to do this, and everybody's saying, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." Guys, I'll be right back. Uh, I'm getting nasally. I will be right. Okay. That was unprofessional. I'm sorry. I was getting nasally. All right. So, um, you know, eh, eh, like I said, is it okay for you to dislike someone else's child? So, if you dislike this kid that your kid goes to school with, or who lives next door, or across the street, or around the corner, because this kid is just a pain. I mean, really, he or she is just a pain. They're rude, they're sarcastic, um they're bullies. Is it okay for their parent to dislike them? See, I've never been one of those parents. Now, I've my husband and I, we only have one child. He will soon be 26. Um, I've never been one of those parents who believe that on Valentine's Day, you have to give out a card to the entire class. I've never been one of those parents who thought that if your child has a birthday party, they have to invite the whole class. You invite and extend invitations to people that you like. Because if my child doesn't like you, why should he or she have to invite you into their home? Why should they have to invite you to a party? And the same thing goes for an adult. Why should I have to invite you if I don't like you, if I don't care for you? So is it okay for you to dislike someone else's kid? Or your kid may like that particular child. Um, Trisina says, "I don't expect everyone to like my children," and that's true. And everyone is not going to like your children. Everyone's not going to like you. I mean, I know, there are people who don't like me, and there's probably some people who don't like my son. Oh, okay, move on. Um, And Tracina says, and I don't expect the class bully to be invited to the party. But you know what, Tracina? The class bully would expect to be invited to the party, and their parents would expect the class bully, their child, to be invited to the party. And when you tell them why they're not, they get upset. So let me ask this, and I'm going to turn on the call in in a minute. Um, do you guys think that people know that their children are bullies, or do you think that there are some people who, um, okay, hey, crazy lady, I wouldn't let my kid play with them. Absolutely. Um, hey, facts, porcupine, welcome. Um, I mean, do you think people know that their children are bullies, or do you think that that bully hides it when they go home? What do they do? What do they do? Okay, Anthony says that they hide. Okay, I am about to turn on the call in if anybody wants to call in. Okay, I tested this out and it's supposed to work. Okay, so. Oh boy. I had my Discord folks help me test this. Okay, so if you would like to call in, 877-777-2005, 877-777-2005, and on Podbean, if anybody wants to come up, they're more than welcome. So, but honestly, y'all, I remember watching Oprah years ago because her show has been off for what, about 10 years now, probably. Um, again, years ago. And there was a woman on there who said she does not put her children first. And people in the audience were like, oh my God, oh my God. And she says, I don't put my children first because I have to put myself first. I do not put my family first. I don't put my husband first. I don't put my children first. I put me first. And she says, because if my mental well being is not at least 95%, I'm not going to be any good for my family. And I'm going to start to resent them. And the more she started to break it down, it made a lot of sense to me. And when she first started talking, she did sound selfish, because one thing that people do is they will people assume that mothers are supposed to be maternal. How can you not put your children first? But that same amount of societal pressure is not put on the fathers. So would there be a difference if a father said that they dislike their children as opposed to a mother saying that they dislike their children? Is it worse for a mother to say it as opposed to a father? And Tracina says that child might be a bully for many reasons. Maybe they're spoiled brats. Maybe they're abused themselves. That is true. That is true. If a child grows up knowing that their parents don't like them, and they end up having children, do you think that they see that as an excuse not to like their children? Like, well, my mother didn't like me, my father didn't like me. Now I have an excuse not to like you. I mean, is that something that can happen? Um, I say yes. I say people bring into adulthood what was manifested in childhood. Some scars, some emotions they can't leave behind. No matter how much therapy you have, I believe, this is my own personal belief, that for whatever reason, you can't leave that behind. Um, Growing up is hard. I did not like high school. I wasn't popular. I was not popular. I was just that average kid who went to school, came home. I had my circle of friends, whatever. I was on the nerdy side. But high school was hard. You know, to a certain extent, grammar school was hard. I mean, being a child is hard because when you're under the age of 18, you have no rights for the most part. Your parents tell you what to do, your teachers tell you what to do, and you do it. You have to do it. You're supposed to do it. So, having said that, are there some kids who start to resent the restrictions of being a child where they start to act out and their parents start to dislike them or resent them or get upset with them? Is that what some parents start to do? I don't know. Do you become that uh if people don't like you as a child, are you going to become that adult that people don't like? Don't know. You know, people like like I said, people have children and they shouldn't. There are some people who absolutely should not be parents, but they keep having child after child after child, and they should not be parents. Whether whatever economic bracket you're in, there are people who have tons of money and absolutely should not be have children. There are people who have no money and absolutely should not have children. To me, children are not based on your economic status because there are some people who may be dirt poor and they can be the best parents ever. And there are people who can be extremely rich and be the worst parents. There are some children who were born with that silver spoon and they are the absolute worst kid that you can ever think of. And there are some that are born like that and they are the best. Same thing for people who are born without that silver spoon. But is it okay for your parent not to like you? Is it okay? I say in some circumstances, yes. I say in some circumstances, it is okay for a parent not to like their child, to resent their child, to want to send their child away because that child is disrupting the household, disrupting the household to an extent where they are becoming violent. They are instilling fear in other siblings or parents or the pet. What was Jeffrey Dahmer like as a child? Were his parents afraid of him? This is a man who grew up to kill people and eat them. What was Charles Manson like as a child? All these serial killers that are out there, what were they like as children? But then again, they say that you could live with a serial killer for 50 years and not know that, once a week they're going out and they're killing people and they're burying them in the backyard. What do you do? And Fertile says in situations where the kid is violent and stuff the loving things. Okay, let me read this again. In situations where the kid is violent and stuff the loving things do is to have them go somewhere that can help them, not keep them in your home. That doesn't help anybody. But even still, sending them away. I mean, where do you send them? Do you end up sending them to an institution? Do you end up sending them to military school? You guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am so nasally. Once again, I will be right back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I slept under a fan last night, and I never sleep under a fan, but it was just so warm last night. Okay, so um, again, what do you do? What do you do? Is military the place for some children? I believe it is. But what if it's not? I mean, if Jeffrey Dahmer had gone to military school, would he have ended up killing people and eating them? If John Wayne Gacy had gone to military school or was put in a boot camp, would he ended up have sexually assaulting boys and burying them under the crawl space of his house? The Boston Strangler, just all these people in history who went around killing people. If they had been put in institutions or gone to live with grandmother and grandfather, would they have turned out better? And what is better? Tristina says, causing reactive abuse in their siblings and parents causing their family to become abusive. And Tristina, you do have a point because if you have someone who in your household is abusive, just to survive. You, in turn, will probably become abusive just to protect yourself. So you, in turn, have to become that person to protect yourself. So, anyway, everyone, that is my show for today. I will be on Friendly Differences on Saturday, which I do believe is April the 25th. I will be on the Friendly Differences podcast on YouTube. And also, I would like to remind everyone that coming soon, The House of Dread is also coming on YouTube with your host, Dread Empath. She will be starting, I do believe, sometime in May, the middle of May, I do believe. But we will get back to you on a definitive date. So coming soon, The House of Dread on YouTube. I am Solid Blue Sister. My turn to talk on YouTube. And again, Friendly Differences Podcast. I will be here again on Saturday, the 25th. And I will be on YouTube. So, and My Turn to Talk is sponsored by Smooth California Skincare, smoothca.online, how skin should be. They are running a fantastic spring promotion, soon to have a Mother's Day promotion coming up. So, and we will also be running a contest, so to speak, to get free samples of Smooth California. So Smooth California Skincare, smoothca.online, how skin should be. So everyone, until next time, thank you for putting up with my nasally self. Again, I slept under a fan. I'm sorry. I'll be better next time. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week, and peace.